In 2022, there wasn't a single independent 8 Sleep review online, which is why I spent $2,000 of my own money to buy the Pod 2. I was on a mission to create a genuine review, and it was a win-win proposition. Either I get better sleep and feel more energetic, or I expose 8 Sleep and all the influencers for pumping up a fake hyped product. But flash forward more than 2 years later, and my conclusion is kind of boring. Sleeping on a cooled mattress that automatically tracks my sleep is amazing. But did I get caught up in the hype too? Well, recently I had my conviction tested while I was living in an Airbnb for a couple of months without my pod, and my sleep was kind of miserable. I was so excited to get back to my cooled mattress that I pre-ordered the Pod 4 as soon as I got back home. And it has some nice upgrades like added comfort and a physical temperature adjustment. So keep watching to see how I tracked my sleep improvements, my comfort observations, the leak issue that I had with my Pod 2, and I'll go over the 4 types of people who should probably avoid getting an 8 Sleep. 8 Sleep's goal is to help you feel more recovered each morning when you wake up without adding any additional time spent in bed, but just by swapping some of your light sleep for deep sleep. The Pod 4 cover tries to achieve this with a dual zone active grid cover that slips over your existing mattress. The cover heats and cools from 110 degrees Fahrenheit to 55 degrees. And each person sleeping on the bed sets a desired temperature for their zone, and then the cover will get prepped to the ideal temperature when it's time to go to sleep. There's no worse feeling than continuously rolling over to try and find a cooler spot on the sheet, and I do that a lot in the summer. And for me, there's actually a pretty easy fix for this. Just turn down the AC to 65 degrees and let the ceiling fan blow around the air a little bit and create some airflow. The problem, 65 is very expensive to maintain, especially if we're talking about a central air system, and my wife absolutely hates it when it's that cold. But now with the Pod 4 cover, my wife and I have come to a compromise. We set the room to about 71 degrees, which works out perfectly for both of us because I can keep my side of the cover at about a -4 or -5 setting, which is extra cool, and she can do whatever she wants on her side, but it's usually very toasty. So the $3,000 question is, does this temperature control actually improve your sleep? Well, according to an 8 Sleep study, of the 300 users tested with an Oura ring, they averaged a 10% increase in their deep sleep. However, I don't need to tell you, but if this study proved anything but 8 Sleep working well, 8 Sleep would have just thrown out the study. Why would they keep that study? So this study is not really going to tell you much, which is why I wanted to get my own data. In 2022, with the Pod 2, I rotated having the pod enabled and disabled for 60 days. And during this time, my deep sleep and REM sleep increased by about 5% combined, according to my Oura ring, which worked out to about an extra 12 minutes of high quality sleep per night. I tried to repeat these findings with the Pod 3 the next year using my Apple Watch instead of my Oura ring, but I really wasn't able to see an obvious difference in my deep or REM sleep when sleeping on the pod. For this Pod 4 review, I'll be honest with you, I was so relieved to finally be back on my mattress after 2 months of not being on it that I just didn't want to sacrifice my sleep anymore to get more control data. But my reluctance to do it is saying a lot, isn't it? Sometimes I get too caught up in data to try and justify a decision, but I'm a simple man. I like a cool sleeping environment, and the easiest way for me to achieve it in my situation is to have an 8 Sleep. When laying on the Pod 2 cover, it was pretty obvious that it wasn't just a bare mattress. You could feel the coils, and there was a giant strap that ran along my chest. But the Pod 3 made major improvements by masking the coils better and completely removing that strap. And then the Pod 4 improved things even further by removing the stiff and firm encasement cover, which laid under the main cover and zipped to it. The Pod 4 cover gets pretty close to having almost no impact on the feeling of your existing mattress. However, my bet is that over time the padding will wear down slightly and you'll feel the coils again, but it won't ever become an issue. My second observation is that I'm typically a side sleeper, but I find that in the summertime with my pod, I'm usually more on my stomach or my back. That way my whole body can feel the coolness. If your bedroom is really hot, you're probably not gonna feel very cool if just one side of your leg is getting the coolness. Thirdly, if the sides of the bed have different temperatures, it'll act as a barrier. It's great for me because I like my space when I sleep, but it's not ideal for couples who like to sleep close to each other. The 8 Sleep app has 4 tabs: an overview, schedule temperatures with manual control, alarms, and sleep tracking. After the initial setup, I just let the scheduled temperatures do their thing and just use the app for sleep tracking only. And this is made easier because now with the Pod 4, there's a new way to change the temperature that doesn't require your phone. There's a ribbed rubber material on each side of the bed that's tappable. A double tap of this area lowers the temp by a point, and the bed will vibrate twice to indicate that it worked, while a triple tap will raise the temperature by a point. In the past, when there were nights where I felt hotter than normal and I just wanted my bed to be a little bit cooler, I would kind of avoid doing it because I didn't want to blind myself with my phone at nighttime. In previous 8 Sleep reviews, I have asked for a physical remote, but this is actually a way better solution. 8 Sleep has an alarm feature called Gentle Rise that vibrates a single zone of the bed and adds heat or coolness when it's time to wake up. When it's your partner's side of the bed vibrating, you won't feel the vibrations, but you'll definitely hear it. This is just a way more pleasant experience than your partner's phone blasting in the room over and over as she keeps hitting snooze, which is why I think this is an awesome feature for partners who have different sleep schedules. And finally, let's talk about the hub. 8 Sleep claims that the Pod 4 hub is 40% quieter than the Pod 3. In my experience, if the room is really hot or you're drastically changing the temperature, like bumping it up 4 or 5 points, it'll sound like a computer tower fan going off. But once the hub is maintaining its temperature, you'll barely hear it, and that's how it runs most of the time. But even when the hub is actively changing in temperature, it's still much more quiet than a window AC would be, and it's easy to sleep through. 8 Sleep tracks sleep movements, cycles, duration, and provides a sleep fitness score each morning. This fitness score is based on a 100-point scale and factors in your time slept, your consistency, and how quickly you fell asleep. 8 Sleep's data isn't flawless. For example, if I had my baby laying on me while I was still awake, 8 Sleep would mistake my stillness for sleep. Other than weird edge cases like that, 8 Sleep's sleep duration usually matched other wearables pretty well, as long as you stay on your side of the bed. What I appreciate most about it is the hassle-free tracking. You don't have to remember to put on any wearable, and all your data from the 8 Sleep app can automatically go into your Apple Health app. And based on my observations over the years, the 3 health tracking metrics, heart rate, HRV, and breath rate, all seem to be at least directionally accurate. The bottom line is that as long as you stay in your zone and you don't have babies or pets on board, you're going to love the convenience of the sleep tracking because you don't have to wear anything. In the past, 8 Sleep's pump would get noisy every 6 to 8 weeks. To fix it, you just add some water to the tank, open up the app, and click on the Prime the Pump button. But now 8 Sleep primes itself automatically. The only maintenance you have to do now is add some tap water every 3 months or so to the tank because that water will naturally dissolve. As far as durability, I had the Pod 2 for a year and I ran into no issues at all until I went to take off my cover and replace it with the Pod 3. When I took the Pod 2 cover off, I noticed a ring near the pump connection on the encasement cover. It wasn't a major leak because my sheets were never wet and I never felt anything, and the mattress underneath didn't get any water either. I told 8 Sleep about my leak and they sent me a free replacement Pod 2 within a week. The customer service was awesome, but I was kind of worried about 8 Sleep because a quick search on Google shows that a small yet noticeable amount of people had a leak issue with their Pod 2 cover. And if my pod cover couldn't even get through a full year without having a leak, how was somebody supposed to get through 5 years of ownership? Fortunately, after a year of sleeping on the Pod 3, I had no issues. And from my research, it doesn't look like the internet had any issues either. As you know, if people were having leak issues with the Pod 3, you would know about it because people like to talk on the internet. And as far as the Pod 4 for this review, I've only slept on it 6 weeks, but it's golden as of now. To me, it seems obvious that 8 Sleep addressed the leak issue in the Pod 3 and the Pod 4, but we'll have to see how these pods hold up over time. And if I do have issues with the Pod 4, I'll be sure to report them in the comments section. So if you haven't heard anything from me, we're still good. And if leaks are a major concern of yours, I would just upgrade to the enhanced subscription plan. It's basically just an insurance policy for $100 a year. Last year, 8 Sleep put the majority of its features behind a paywall. Now the standard subscription plan for $180 is mandatory for the first year of ownership. The good news is that you can cancel this subscription after the first year. The bad news is that you'll only get one feature: manual temperature control. Health and sleep tracking metrics, along with the alarm and the scheduled heating and cooling, are all disabled if you don't have that subscription. So if you don't care about the sleep tracking, can you actually get by without the subscription? I think maybe, but remembering to manually turn on your pod 30 minutes before sleep each night so that it's at the proper temp for bedtime isn't ideal. Subscriptions are the primary reason why I don't own an Oura ring or a Whoop strap anymore. But I think 8 Sleep customers should probably frame the subscription differently. If you plan to keep your pod for 5 years, that's $900 in subscription fees. So forget the subscription. The real question is, are you willing to spend $3,500 to sleep on this thing for 5 years? Which actually works out to be about $2 a night. I don't know for sure, but 8 Sleep likely can't sell this product profitably at its current listing price, which is why they're sneakily charging you an extra $900. But I'd rather see 8 Sleep do this and survive than completely disappear and go under like so many startups do. However, I think the subscription will rightfully dissuade a lot of people from buying one. Personally, I'm fine spending extra for my health, especially being a busy entrepreneur and dad. I want to get the best sleep possible. But the Pod 4 won't be for everyone. There are 4 types of people who I think should really think hard before buying one. Number 1 is if you're single. Personally, if I were single and I could just put a window AC in the window and keep it to its lowest setting, I would sleep like a baby at night and save the $3,000. I've slept perfectly most of my life this way. The second type of person is if you have a super hot bedroom. This might sound like a contradiction, but I don't think an 8 Sleep will be enough to overcome a 90-degree bedroom. I still think you need a reasonable baseline temperature, call it 75 degrees or less, in order to feel the effects of the 8 Sleep. Otherwise, you're going to be breathing in hot air and sweating while one side of your body is cool. It's just going to be weird. And the third type of person is somebody who's already content with their sleep. If you're already sleeping well, the pod might not be worth it. It's expensive and it's not going to just magically make your energy go through the roof like some of the influencers or 8 Sleep's marketing might suggest to you. It's just a cool cover. It's not magic. And the fourth type of person is those who like to snuggle. Like I mentioned already, the dual zones create a weird situation if you and your partner have different temperature preferences. There's going to be a barrier there, and on top of having like maybe one leg hot and one leg cold, it'll also affect the sleep tracking. However, if you're in a good spot financially and you're set on getting the Pod 4, I'm not going to talk you out of it, even if you fit into one of the categories that we just talked about. All I'm trying to say is if you do fit into one of those categories, it might not be the best value. The ideal buyers for the Pod 4 are couples who frequently fight over the bedroom temperature. And I think if you've recently been uncomfortable while sleeping, the Pod 4 is worth trying for the 30-day trial. And just see if it makes a difference for you. And if it doesn't, send it back. And if you've watched all this as a Pod 2 or a Pod 3 owner, and you're wondering if you should upgrade to the Pod 4, I would say probably not. But I'm going to talk about that in a future video, probably in about a month. And finally, before I leave, I want to get into my affiliate disclosure. 2 years ago, when I made my original video, I had no relationship with 8 Sleep at all. I was just a happy customer. Eventually, 8 Sleep found my review and they actually reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of their affiliate program. I joined their program under a few conditions. I told them I don't accept free products and I'll continue to buy everything that I test on this channel. And I said I won't tweak or adjust any of my content to their liking. And the third is that I don't allow any of my content to be used on any of their social platforms. Basically, I bought 3 different 8 Sleep covers and I reviewed them as unbiasedly and as fairly as I could. And if my subscribers end up buying through one of my links, 8 Sleep will cut me a check. In a perfect world, I would have no relationship with 8 Sleep, but this allows me to make free content for you guys. And because I'm in their program, they've provided me with a $200 discount for anybody who watches this video. And there's nothing special about my discount link specifically. You can search for one on Google and there are thousands of people with this exact same discount. So I obviously won't be offended if you don't use mine. Go use somebody else's. But I always really do appreciate the people who go out of their way to use my link. So that's all I have for this video. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the 8 Sleep pod versions and I'll gladly answer them. Thanks for watching. I'm out.